All right. It's Friday, Todd. It's Friday, May 1st.
Yes. What does that mean? What does that mean?
Well, it means it's Flash Friday time.
Yes, sir. All right.
All
Rock and
right,
roll.
so we're on the air. We're solo producing again. So we do miss Emily and her production capabilities. We were just talking
Yes, we
about that.
do. Very
We
much.
have a packed show. We took a week off. We're like, hey, it's kind of a slow news week, and then it exploded. So there's tons of content. Our format, I think we agreed on, is we're gonna each do like 7 minutes, right?
Yeah.
And
So you're
then
sticking. You better go.
yeah, so I'm up first, and then I got a bunch of stuff across Teams and security and everything else, and you got Power BI and Power Platform, and then we're doing our demo, which
Yes.
is really cool. Todd and I stayed up late last night building a demo. It'll take us like 10, 15 minutes to really walk through slowly and let you understand what we did, which is dynamically using context variables in a Power App and embedding that Power App in Teams. So the app is responsive to the characteristics of the team. And we did it using nerdy GUID style approach and also cosmetic labels. So hang tight because we think this is extremely useful, but hey, you will decide because our opinion isn't really that important. Although we were impressed with ourselves at about 11 o'clock last night, right? So yeah, a little dust off. All right, so I'm going to hit it. First up, and so I know I get crap for talking fast, but that's not going to change today. And remember, after it's posted, you can pause, rewind, all that. So obviously, there are some new M365 announcements. Yammer in Teams, which we'll go into a little deeper on top of that one, as the communities button inside of Teams. So some people had confusion around that. We think this absolutely clarifies it, makes it highly relevant. So you have the teams, you have the communities that you're a member of, right? If you're a smaller organization, that line may not be distinct, but if you're a bigger organization, it certainly is. And then if you think about, the communities you're a part of and the things you just kind of want to be a watcher or an occasional commentator on, much like Facebook posts, right? There's that community sense, and then there's that smaller group that you're actually collaborating with. And you can also embed a given community within a team. So you can explore all of your community participation, or you can have a community lined up around the team. So many teams may reflect a community, and that makes sense. And so this really, really fixes that. So awesome. On top of it, they had the Yammer mobile release on top of it, and then this one popped in as a bonus, which is natural language query in Excel.
Yes.
I was completely blown away. Like one of the sales by region, it says, would you like to turn this as a pivot chart? Why, yes, I would, Excel. So this brings some of that old school Power BI. Remember back when Power BI used to be an Excel plugin thing, right? And then we broke away so we could have our own memory space and performance and all the rest of the stuff. Well, some of that goodness is coming back to you Excel power users. So I thought that one was super cool. Visio for the web, we've talked about it, right? On top of that. Copy and paste and more in Microsoft Edge. So you can copy and paste between tabs, all sorts of amazingness on top of that. You can manage a whole bunch of tabs at once. So if you've been fighting away with the tabs, you get this little tab manager feature on the left-hand side. You and I were talking about between that and collections. There's amazing. I'm doing this backyard project around kind of a grill island thing. This has been crazy useful to have all these collections and stuff and pull them all together. And I think it's just awesome. And then secure search, check out the password monitor component for dark web password safety. So some of that kind of capability. And then in private browsing and in private search. So I said in private browsing, but you also have this coupled for in private search. And you can go ahead and check that one out on top of it. And again, the collections, I was bragging about it, and there it is in on top of it. Before, I think you had to do a little nerd command to put in the preview in order to show it. But now, of course, you can do that. And then if you are doing search, there's a new give mode where you can donate your points into...
Yes, I'm doing that.
Yeah, and right now, I mean, that's a great thing to do. That's a substantive contribution. Essentially what you're doing is taking a revenue share of the advertising dollars that your search is doing, and you're sharing it back to philanthropic organizations. So if you want to, how's that work? Well, you're signed in, and you're getting relevant advertising and that kind of stuff, but we're driving a tangible outcome. So that's exciting on top of it. Some M365 announcements on the content and analytics on top of stuff, so go check that one out. All right. In Teams, for the Teams Roundup, obviously we got the gallery view for calling 9 people. Highly in demand feature on the roadmap for a while, released under pressure based on current circumstance. They expedited the engineering to do that one. Raise hands, an important portion of any individual meeting on top of it. Background effects, so you can apply the intelligent background effect if you want to. And yes, custom backgrounds are coming in mid-May, so that one's on top of it. Background blur for iOS, so traditional blur feature, now available on the iOS on top of it.
Yeah, that kind of blew my mind that I could do that on my mobile device.
That's pretty cool.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then M365, whether you knew it or not, there were limits on the service. I think it was 15 per tenancy that you could have from a concurrent live event standpoint. So that went up to 50. And then events can store up to 20,000 attendees. The duration went to 16 hours. Don't do that. Just don't. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how else to say it. Maybe if you want, I don't know, what would you do for 16 hours? It's like a global cost. I don't know. But hey, 16 hours. It's no longer the previous limit, so you're good to go on top of that. And then if you get the live events assistance program, you can go up to 100,000. Essentially, we want to do a little planning with you if you're doing more than 100,000, because there are considerations around bandwidth and other things that you might or might not care about. But there's the live events assistance program on top of it. Cool. All right, you can now share system audio in Teams live events. So one of the things you can do, which you could do in the Teams meeting, I saw your reaction to that one, which is pretty cool. And then also there is now an end meeting for all.
This one's important.
It's important.
Because you always see those stragglers just like for hours that never leave the meeting.
They just left the other window in the background, or maybe their mic's hot, and that's not on top of that. The meetings dashboard was released inside for the IT admin side on top of it. And one of the other things they talked about, soon they're making a call recording API to allow partners to export Teams meetings and calls, or a call record, not call recording, a call record. Yes. It's not recording the calls. It's a call record API.
Go back to the conversation.
What's that? Yeah, that would be horrible, right? So on top of it. And then they talked about some local media direct routing optimization, all sorts of stuff on top of that. There's also some meeting policy stuff for batch policy assignments, turning on the default lobby settings, which we reviewed, right?
Yes.
For do you want to let people come in hot into your meetings and all that stuff? How about anonymous people? All that kind of stuff. So you have that on top of it. And then there is the Yammer app in Teams is now generally available. And what you want to do there is essentially pin that communities application to the left-hand side. And then you get this beautiful embedded experience where you can see all of your communities within it. All right. Now, one thing, and I think I had a dive in through the specific look of it on top of this one. So there you can see the Yammer communities and the full in-depth post on that if people want to do it. But one of the other things they had in that post was there's the incentives app in Teams. And these are the app templates, which you and I absolutely love. These are one of my favorite things. They are super easy to deploy. If you have an Azure subscription that is in any way that is linked to your tenancy, it is an easy exercise to go through this. If you have an Azure subscription that's not linked to your tenancy, the configuration is a little more difficult. You got to be more of an infrastructure admin kind of person to do all the authentications and stuff, but it's still possible. And so, but if you're within the tenancy, literally, Todd, you just paste the URL for the deployment after you've made an app ID and a registration, which we've shown people to do many times on this show, and you're off to the races, and you can get this cool praise and incentives application. Now this, if you're a ProSci change person through the AdCar framework, this is a really exciting component. So go check this out. And essentially what you'll be able to do is kind of go through the gamification of incentives. And then if you couple that up with the praise stuff for what's new in Teams, you have some really cool social reinforcement around giving people like gamifying change and doing reinforcement stuff and then putting up these praise components. I think these two things connect. There's this gamification and incentives, and there's this praise thing over here, and you can blend these things together and essentially give people like points for internal rewards for doing stuff. And right now when we're all disconnected, I think these are really powerful things to build a digital community. So praise and incentives, two really cool stuff.
I'm just going to do a time check on you.
I know.
Okay.
All right, I got three more. I'll talk about expanded geo coverage. There's a cost impact to it. Office Cloud Policy Service, the last one, and I'll just push it out to today. Office Cloud Policy Service, if you don't know about it, you go to config.office.com, and essentially you can manage the Microsoft 365 apps, the Office policy, like the Office Pro Plus stuff. You can block things like macro execution, VBA for Office applications, like a lot of those security things when you have people who are receiving pure internet updates. That kind of stuff is in there. So some other posts, Zero Trust, other things. I'm out of time. Mr. Kidda, I'm going to pull up your content, and then we'll turn it over to you.
Let's do a speed round. All right. So I'm not sure if we've talked about it too much. I maybe have mentioned it, but I haven't really kind of dove into the Office 365 CLI. I think this is really cool. And I think this also gives me a good chance to show off the new Windows terminal. So this is really exciting stuff. So
It is.
we've got the Office 365 CLI that does some really cool stuff. So here's my Windows terminal that I've kind of tricked out. I've got my nice animated beach here. Really, all you need to do is go in, once you've got it installed, just do O365-H for help to see what you've got going on. And I'm just going to do something super simple here and show you. I've got things around flows, I've got things around Outlook, but I've got this really cool little example here where I have Office 365 Outlook, Mail, Send, right? So Outlook is the area, Mail is the area within Outlook, and Send is the command. Where I've got a subject, hey from CLI. I'm going to email myself. And so actually, I'm going to change this to, what is your?
Should be Doug SPL.
Doug SPL, and hit enter. And Doug can verify for us at some point if you got an email. So just a lot of simple things that you can do. One of the things that you're able to do now is check on the status of your services in O365 or Microsoft 365. So you can see what's up, what's down. So you can run some automation to get email alerts, things like that. And then email yourself, right? Or look for new flows inside of environments. Really good way to do automation. So go check out the O365 CLI. Super easy to get started. I've talked before about data sets inside Power BI having certification capabilities. So you're able to go in and say, hey, this is certified or promoted. We kind of call out promotion as you're kind of putting your name on it. You're putting your, you feel it's high quality. You're putting the Todd Kidder or Doug Splinter stamp of approval on it, and you're kind of staking your reputation on that. Whereas certification is more like, this is IT certified or data governance certified as appropriate for reuse within your organization. So you've been able to do that inside data sets for a while, and now you can do it inside of data flows, which is awesome.
Nice.
Data flows have really, I think, changed the game on self-service where people are getting access to data. So now we can do this with data flows as well. This one from a governance perspective in Power BI is awesome. Lineage is GA, lineage view. So the view where you're able to see like where things come from in a dashboard or report. That's been in preview for a while, but now that's generally available. And some of the things here that we've added around impact analysis are fantastic. So inside the upcoming April update of desktop, and we'll talk about that in a second, given the fact that it's now May, you can now, when you're working on your data sets inside the Power BI service, you'll get an impact analysis report to say, hey, did you know that there are 3 reports, 2 dashboards, and 2 workspaces that depend on this? So you may want to go in and see who you may be disrupting if you're renaming fields or things like that.
Whom are you going to irritate if you do this operation?
Who are you going to irritate? This is really good. I thought this one was really great as well, where you're looking at your lineage view, and you can see how used your stuff is, right? So if you're doing an impact analysis, one of the things that might inform you is how many people are actually looking at this. If it's 10,000, you're going to treat that much different than 5, right? Yeah. So really great. Some other stuff in here, but I'm going to let that be an exercise for the reader. The April update of desktop. I think this is the first time in my memory that we've missed a month, but I think we're quite excused from that. And what we've done is we've pushed the April update to May 6th, which is just in a few days, which is on also the same day as the Microsoft Business Applications Summit. Or yes, the Microsoft Business Applications online event. So go register for that. It's on May 6th. It's free. We're going to release the April desktop update that day. As far as I can tell from here, we're going to still publish the May update on schedule. So
nice. Hey, one comment related. Virtual build coming up May 19th, 20.
Virtual build. That's going to be huge. I saw Scott Hanselman's teaser video for that, and I actually got chills. I'm pretty excited for build.
I know. It's going to be great.
Yeah. And what's so amazing is they're going to be doing this. They're going to redo the sessions for different time zones. So the presenters are working hard. They're working hard. They're not just going to record and play back. They're going to literally redo the sessions for all the different time zones.
And I think that's because so you can do the interaction with people. It's great.
Unbelievable. All right. A couple new DLP things for Power Platform. So we've added in some new wizard capabilities into the Power Platform Admin Center. to make that easy. One of the things that we've added a third bucket. So we've had business and non-business for a while, but now you can actually block connectors.
I saw that. That was awesome.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that one. And you can also in the I think we've been able to do this for a while in the other UI, but I think this just meant, and I was seeing if I was missing something. I think what this means is you're able to now manage the HTTP connectors in the Power Platform Admin Center.
Correct. That's what it is. If you stood up an HTTP connector, your administrators have control of it.
Yep. One more thing, the Business Application Summit, just to kind of tease it again, to drive home the register message. This is coming up on May 6th, and here's all the Power Automate sessions that are coming up. And there's a large focus, not surprisingly, on RPA, right? The UI flows. So check that out. And I think we did a pretty good job because it's 10:45. That's exactly what we're shooting for to do our demo.
Thank you for recovering the time.
No worries. So just for some context here.
Yes.
Let's get some context. So here's our thing. A few weeks back, if you go back, I think two episodes, we talked about the fact that you are now able to embed Power Apps inside of teams that have context about the team or channel and other things that they're in. So not only are they just a Power App that's in a team, but now there's this tight integration, right? So what can you use this for? So basically what happens is you develop your Power App, your Canvas app, kind of how you normally would, but now these special parameters are passed in that you're able to do. So before I show this, Doug, did you want to add any other context?
No, well, the point was, so say you have, a lot of people are doing programmatic provisioning of teams now, right? So you make a teams for, let's say you're a law firm and you have client matter, right? Or you're a construction firm and you have projects that you're provisioning in. What you want to be able to do is maybe have a Power App that shows some data from an ERP system or a SQL database or a SharePoint list, and you want to show like that Power App, you want it to be dynamically customized based on that team. Make sense?
Oh yeah.
Now that data could come from potentially the provisioning GUID where you store it somewhere in a mixed table, or it could just be like the ID of the name of the team itself defines its taxonomy. So, a lot of people who provision teams are creating them like project code dash the project name. Make sense?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Or they're having for a customer and they have channels for each project. So essentially what we wanted to show off was how to make a Power App dynamically customize itself based on the team it's in.
That's
right?
So,
either using backend nerd data from Azure AD, meaning when you provision it, you're storing the GUID, or you don't do any of that, and then the name of the team or other attributes dynamically change it. So let's start with the end in mind. So
yes.
Todd's loading it in, and I'll let you walk through on screen.
So this is obviously not a beautiful app. That was not the goal. The goal here is to show you some of the things over here on the left that are passed to us from teams. So I get the team ID. I get the group ID, which is the Azure Active Directory group ID that this team is based on.
And now the game is afoot because we have the Azure AD connectors and we can do anything we want to with that Azure AD, right? You can make your own custom connectors that call in the custom attributes. Like you do whatever you want because you have the actual O365 Azure AD group ID. Right.
So, because depending, like Doug said earlier when he was kind of giving the context, you may decide to split out your taxonomy across across teams or across channels. And regardless of what you're doing, we have you covered here because here's your channel ID as well. Yep. But there's some other interesting things too as well. Like how's the person coming to me? Are they on their mobile device or are they on their desktop? Are they on dark mode or light mode? So here you can see I'm on default, which is light mode. Now there's a bunch of other variables that are passed in as well.
Yeah.
But that's not good enough, right?
No.
We
Can
also
I give one shout out to your left side before you move on?
Yeah.
You ever had one of those Power Apps where the logo was put in, but it looks like crud if you're in light or dark mode?
Yeah.
You can just have the variable set to swap out the logo for the one that looks good in the right mode. Right. Now, sometimes that's very visually important. You ever had those where the labels or something are incorrectly toned? So this is like some of these things that they don't seem like a big deal, but they are really big deal if you want it to look nice and be responsive, and those are important things at times. So
that's right.
Fire
so
away.
This is what most of the things that are passed in as parameters are ID-ish. There's not a lot of labels that are passed in. So, but you notice over here, I got the name of the team that I'm in, right there. And I also have the name of the channel that I'm in. right here. That wasn't passed to me. So this guy right here, I'm using the Azure Active Directory connector inside Power Apps to get that. And here I'm using the Microsoft Teams connector to use this channel ID to get that. And I'll show you how I did that in a minute using expressions. And before I talk about this table here, I'm going to hop back over to SharePoint to show you how we did this. Yep. So I have this list called projects that I key off of the title, which is the name of my project. And I just happen to be saying, I want to match my project name to my channel name. And then I'm going to go get information about that. So this was projects.
Now, the reason we chose this example is because if you are doing programmatic provisioning and there's some kind of ID or value that you can parse out from the name of the channel, right? Now, I know this is not technically a security attribute, so you'd have to security trim it on the data source side, but we want to show you the flexibility. Technically, if you wanted to truly secure it, you would do the GUID and make a data binding with an authoritative management table, but sometimes you don't need that. I mean, if the data source is security trim based on the user, right, or if you do automated provisioning, essentially, I just wanted to make sure that you could use that, the taxonomy and the actual, not the GUIDs, but the naming structure as metadata. So hopefully that comes through. So the left-hand side is the name of those channels, right? And the right-hand side we just made this kind of fictitious budget project kind of things that people are in charge of with some values.
Yep. And I mean, this isn't a SharePoint list. This data could be coming from an API, could be coming from a SQL server. Who cares, right? Yes. The point is that the data matches up. Yep. And so then what I have here is, notice that my channel name that I'm in general matches this description here. So it filters the table. So if I go over to this Project Falcon channel and go to the same, I've set up the same app in here. Now notice that my channel name gets set appropriately, and so does my table here, right? So this is Project Falcon with a different budget on here. So now, just to show you how I did this, how I added it, I'm going to go to this Project Owl and add in a new tab. I've already imported the custom Teams app into this channel, into this team. So it's already here as an option. So I'm just going to add it.
Now, one thing, if you make one of these Power Apps for importing into Team, you're going to export it, right? And then from Power Apps, you're going to import it in. Now, once you've imported it, then if you edit the original, your changes are reflected. So don't be like you have a static version of it. There's a one-time import process, either as a user or as an administrator to put it into your official app management gallery. And we did highlight the app management stuff like 2 weeks ago. There was those online classes that were recorded. So there you go. So
one thing I'm going to show real quick is just adding another project here. And I'm going to add Doug as the contact and click save. So this is for project. So now I have two things under Falcon. So if I go back over here and switch over to the Falcon channel in Teams and go to my project app, I'm doing this on the fly, so hopefully it works. Yeah, there we go. So there's my two rows that I just added that are filtered to that. So I thought that was pretty cool. So should we show off the actual Power App here real quick?
Yeah, we definitely should. It's got, as you can see, mad UI skills. With the
mad UI skills. Very good. Yes. So, and then let's not also forget to show how we exported this out, because it was pretty too hard. So, so here's the same app. You should recognize this. If I go to this text box here and go over to advanced and go to text here, it's pretty straightforward. All I'm doing, you
see it up in the formula bar too, right?
Yep.
So there's the param team ID.
Yep. I'm calling out param team ID, right? And then and the same things over here. So when I go get the mode, it's the same deal. So I call param theme, and that's all in the documentation what those different variables are. So to show you how I got these things over on the right, which are a little more dynamic, I'm going to first show you that I already added in the Azure AD connector, as well as the Teams connector, as well as the SharePoint connector, right? So those are all first-party connectors, right, as part of our connector framework. So to get the group name, I just said Azure AD. Let me zoom in a little bit. Azure AD.getGroup. I got the param of the group ID, right, which was passed in from Teams. And then once I have the group, I call .displayName to get the display name.
Hey, Todd, one thing we noticed about this, it does throw an invalid syntax error, but it's cosmetic because it's not able to assess the validity of that expression embedded. But when you publish it and then go out, it will work beautifully. Yeah, to your point, this error message right here is from the Azure AD.getGroup, because it's like, I don't know what that param ID is.
And we're saying that don't worry about it, you'll get it at runtime.
Yeah, because it's basically going, I can't assess the validity of how good you did there, but it's a cosmetic error is what I'm saying.
That's totally right.
Provided you actually did it correctly. So that's what it
that's
says. I can't know if you did a good job or not.
So this one's a little more complex. So let's go to each part. Yep. So right here, where I want to get the channel name of the team, I call it to the Microsoft Teams connector, which I added over here. I say get channels for a group for that group ID. So this is basically saying, here's the group ID, get me the channels in that team, and then that's going to be a list of things. So I want to filter it. I want to filter it to where the ID of the channel is equal to the channel ID that was passed in from Teams.
All right. So we're saying we get back a collection of channels, and then we're going to filter that channel list by matching the ID, which should always give us a result set of 1 unless bad things have really happened. And then there's the last part.
Yes. Getting first.
Yep.
Because we know that this, let me highlight what I'm referring to, that this statement right here is going to give us one thing, to your point, right?
Yep, it has to.
Power Apps doesn't know that, right? Power Apps thinks a filter is going to return a list of things. In this case, we know we're going to get a list of 1. Yep. So we're just saying, get me the first thing from that list of 1, and then get its display name. That's the name of the channel. Pretty straightforward. Now down here, here's my table that I have bound. Let me go over here, select the actual table that I have bound to the projects from SharePoint, that SharePoint list, okay? But then I want to filter that as well, right? So that's pretty straightforward. All I do is I filter the SharePoint list where the title equals the channel name, which I put in this text box right here. That's it.
That's it. So, and we're actually using the attributes. Now, we could have done that to the dynamic value from the label. We bound it to the label just so we could play around with it and mess around. So you don't have to bind it to the other control. You could have skipped that whole channel name cosmetic box. We were just showing off the dependencies, right? But you certainly could have put that entire expression in instead, and then you would not have to render the control. So we know, but we wanted to have each step shown to you in the code sample so you could mess around with that and compose it for however you want. So this then essentially says, I will render contextually based on the team and channel I'm in, and my data table will get trimmed.
Yes. So 2 more things about deployment. Number 1, once I have my app saved and published, all you do is you come over to your list of apps, you go to your little ellipsis, and you say add to teams. And what that is going to do is when I click download app, it's going to download this zip file manifest that I then go over to Teams. So I'm going to do that. That's this one. And if I say apps, upload a custom app, that's where I upload my zip file that I just downloaded from there. Now, the second thing is I'm not a Teams admin. I'm just a person who created a team. So I actually have to add that app to a specific team. I can't upload it globally. If you're a Teams admin, you can upload it globally, and then anyone in the organization can leverage that.
That's right.
So you'll notice that if I go back over to here, I already showed you how I added the app to OWL. If I were to go to one of these other teams and try to add that app, it's not going to be there. So I'm going to have to add it individually to each team where I have the rights to do so.
All right, so that's the app containment strategy, right? If you're not a global administrator, you can't start publishing, garbage apps all littering up your application catalog, which makes complete sense. In order to do that, you can only do that to teams. You do have to be an owner of the team in order to do this operation. So as a member, you can't suddenly start uploading apps. But it does show you how you can make a app dynamically responsive to parameters for visualization, control, data dips, whatever it is, and you may use either the back-end authoritative metadata or cosmetic values such as labeling. So if you're provisioning teams with a standard naming structure like project code dash the project name, you can parse that project code, feed that sucker in, and then dynamically have the budget line items, expense, a graph query of planners that are based off that. So you could show planner URLs. I mean, think about the amazing things you can do with all those connectors when you have those constructs.
That's right. And I think we actually talked about kind of taking this to the next level and and doing some of those things with the graph and cloning and blowing things out based on, lead IDs from dynamics that kick off a Power Automate flow that blow all the stuff out.
Yeah,
for real production.
So then you'd be over there and having a real provisioning application, because if you look at this demo environment, if you go click on the left-hand side where that new team app is, this is a demonstration environment. One of the other TAs created a Power App that generates teams, right?
Mm-hmm.
So here it is. You put the title, and notice you're filling out business unit, visibility owners, and then this is going to have a request approval, and then it will route over and it'll provision the team with a structured naming convention, all the rest of it. So you could do this, and then the Power Apps that are integrated will dynamically trim based on that stuff. Make sense? So these are all the templates that are available. And so this is a pretty beautiful example of how you can weave all these different components together to make a truly, so then when that team gets provisioned, that team still has, they land in a pre-provisioned environment that has some of the and then they can make it comfortable and put their own stuff up. But you think about the dorm room example, you walk in, you have certain expectations when you arrive in a dorm room or a hotel room as to what's going to be there. And we're really trying to make sure those experiences are there. All right. We are 1 minute over.
Yeah. So I hope you guys liked the lightning round of news and then the demo here. I thought this was really useful. Tons of possibilities. This is great.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's a wrap for the 1st of May.
All right.
We hope you and your families and everyone's doing well, that you're surviving social distancing, that you're trying your best to learn and take breaks and go for walks and balance your life and be healthy. And thank you to everybody who is, we are privileged in many ways from Microsoft to see the hard work that happens in our healthcare customers, in our agriculture customers. Like, we're on the phone with these people, talking to them about how they're communicating with their employees, and we're an integral part of that supply chain. And so to see all that hard work of everybody from our industry to try and serve the others around us is actually candidly very inspiring. And so thank you to everybody who's leaning in to help during this period of time. And we wish you all the best. So we'll be back next week with more fun stuff. I'm probably going to continue the graph side next week. If you like this lightning round concept, let us know over in the comments on the YouTube stream. And then we're also playing around with some LinkedIn Live and doing concurrent streaming for those who like the captioning. So we're talking about that. Anyway, so hope all is well for everybody out there. Todd, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
And
all right.
We'll see y'all in a week. You can kill the broadcast, my friend.
See ya. Bye-bye.
Bye.